For over 4 decades, KCSARC has given voice to survivors and their families, spreading hope and building resilience. But how did it all start? In 1976, KCSARC was founded as King County Rape Relief. At that time, there was little, if any, conversations about sexual assault. It was a hidden crime, and the prevalence was denied or at best dismissed. Shortly after, the staff authored the first book ever published about child sexual abuse, a milestone for social awareness. In 1989, the name was changed to King County Sexual Assault Resource Center to better reflect the comprehensive resources offered. Therapy services were also expanded to include youth. The 80s also marked the beginning of KCSARC's Breakfast, an annual event intended to expand awareness. The first breakfast was small, and to see the growth of community support was wonderful. By the 1990s, KCSARC was driving change at the state level and professionalizing sexual assault response. During the 2000s and 2010s, KCSARC continued to evolve and increased its community outreach programs. As the need for culturally and linguistically relevant sexual assault services grew, KCSARC added bilingual and bicultural staff to better serve Latinx survivors, launching the Dando Voz program. In 2011, KCSARC partnered with Youth Care to create greater access to case management and therapy for homeless youth. In 2013, the annual breakfast theme changed, inspiring all involved to use their voices to be loud against sexual assault. Mary Ellen Stone is not afraid to be loud. Our state is so fortunate that Mary Ellen has been dedicated to this work for more than 40 years. During the mid-2010s, KCSARC began providing connections to attorneys specializing in sexual assault, immigration, and family law to assist clients facing complex legal challenges. In 2017, the Me Too movement led to a spike in demand. KCSARC also launched a program designed to help educators identify and respond to sexual assault. By the 2020s, KCSARC's expertise and voice became widely recognized and trusted in the community. KCSARC's therapy team was honored for its trauma-focused services. KCSARC's Dando Voz therapy staff had their groundbreaking work on prolonged exposure therapy published. In 2021, KCSARC's legal advocacy team issued a report on stalled felony cases in the King County Superior Court system. KCSARC also placed trauma therapists in schools to help students who have experienced abuse. KCSARC has been a leader in responding with support to victims as well as helping communities respond. And still, the most exciting phase of KCSARC's work lies ahead. Thank you for standing with KCSARC.
Good morning. Good morning. Come on. Let's get some spirit in the room. My name is Marilyn Sharon, and I'm KCSARC's board president. And on behalf of the entire KCSARC board, it is my honor to welcome you to this very special Be Loud breakfast. It's great to have both an in-person and a virtual audience with us today. Thank you for joining us in the room and around the country. That opening video reminded me of all that has been accomplished over the last 4 decades. You have all helped make this progress happen by standing by us and by being loud. With your help and your support, we will continue the important work of giving voice to victims, their families, and communities, creating change in beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors about this sexual violence, and instilling courage for people to speak out against sexual assault. We're also here today to honor KCSARC's CEO, Mary Ellen Stone, who, after 43 years, will be stepping into the next chapter of her life. Mary Ellen has spent over 4 decades growing an organization from a staff of 3 to what you see today, which is a professional staff of 72. Mary Ellen has been a driving force for change and the way victims are viewed in King County as well as Washington State. This morning you will hear more about Mary Ellen, but I want to set the stage for those of you who are not familiar with Mary Ellen. Mary Ellen is in fact resilient, tenacious, driven, and gentle. Though she is very, very gentle, she is one of the toughest people I know. She fits my definition of a true badass. But to begin our journey today, I invite you to join us in acknowledging the land on which we stand. We wish to acknowledge that KCSARC serves all of King County, which is on the unceded ancestral land that belongs to indigenous peoples. These lands are the traditional home of the Salish coastal peoples, including but not limited to the Duwamish, Muckleshoot, Puyallup, Snoqualmie, Stillaguamish, Soquamish, and Tulalip tribes. These acknowledgments do not fulfill our obligations to build and foster authentic relationships with indigenous communities, but serve as a step in honoring the land on which we stand. Thank you, and now I'll hand it over to our MC, Margot.
Hi, thank you, Marilyn. Good morning, everyone. It is so nice to see everybody in person. Thank you, Marilyn. We appreciate you, and thank you to the entire KSOC board for your incredible leadership of this essential and amazing organization. You know, in my 21 years now of hosting this great event for KSARC, I have seen incredible change. And I know that a lot of you have seen that change too. So today, we hope to move history forward with our voices, with our participation, and certainly with our giving. You know, we haven't been able to gather in person since 2019. I don't know about you. Anyone else feeling like you're in a bit of a time warp this morning? We have missed you. I have missed you. I've had a lot of fun seeing people that I just haven't seen for the last several years. So it is great that you are here. Thank you for coming. It's just been great to also see everybody chatting and everybody, you know, getting together and see each other in person this morning. And hello also to our virtual attendees. We also are online this morning. And so we want to take a look at people. We have Christine she's from Charleston, South Carolina. We have Gail from Bellevue, Carl from Forest Grove, Oregon. Denise from Team Angie is tuning in from Barcelona. We are international here, gang. Carol is from Portland, Oregon. So welcome all of you who are also watching online in addition to all of you here this morning. That is just absolutely terrific. So if you are joining us virtually, you can also greet each other and chat with each other. You will find the chat to the right of your video there on your screen, and that's also where you will find information on the many ways to give. So to those of you here in the room, you can find there's a QR code, and we also have text to give information. It's in your program, it's on your tables, as well as pledge cards, and our team captains will hand out the pledge cards a little later in the program. And this is amazing today. Thanks to a very generous group of donors, any total gift of $430 or more is going to be matched today. So keep that in mind. Thank you too to our elected officials and other dignitaries who have joined us here today. Your partnership and ongoing support, you make such a huge difference, such a huge difference. For those of you who are joining us in person, please stand and be recognized, if you would. All of our elected officials and dignitaries, and I see some of you in the audience. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. You may be seated. And for those elected officials who are joining us virtually, Thank you for being here as well. We appreciate you being the champions of KCSARC's work that you are. We do not take your efforts lightly. And as you advocate for the services that really help survivors in our communities heal, you amplify what we do in the areas of prevention, in the areas of treatment, and also policy development. So we are very honored to have all of you here today. Thank you. And since the last time we've been here in person, there are a lot of newly elected officials. So congratulations to all of you. We hope that you will lead with our Be Loud message. This event, it's going to raise critical funds. So KCSARC can be there for survivors in our community no matter what. You may have seen the story on the front page of the Seattle Times yesterday about some of the cuts in larger funding. So what we do here today is so important. And this is also the last time at a Be Loud breakfast that we as a community can show our gratitude to KCSARC's CEO for the last 43 years, Mary Ellen Stone. Thanks to Mary Ellen's tremendous leadership, the KCSARC of today provides comprehensive services to survivors such as therapy, family support, legal advocacy, and other essential needs, both in English and in Spanish, in addition to offering such a robust prevention and education program. And as always, KCSARC's 24-hour resource line is always available for immediate help, for information, or resources. So how does KCSARC do it? They do it with people like you. This is the moment that I have missed most during the last few years. I don't remember how long ago we started this, but this is our opportunity to really provide a visual touch point for the pervasive impact of sexual assault in our community. So if you are joining us virtually, please feel free to share in the chat any thoughts on why you are loud. For those here in the room, if you or someone you know has been impacted by sexual assault, please join me in standing to honor them. Yeah. Look at this. This is amazing. Look around the room. So many people are impacted. This is a visual to carry with you all year. All year long. This is why we are here. We all know people who have been impacted by sexual assault. So thank you. Thank you for being courageous enough to stand. We appreciate that. I really do find it moving to see a room that represents so many people in our community stand in such large numbers. It is such a powerful demonstration of caring, of solidarity, and support, really that support for victims of sexual assault. Here are just a few comments from our virtual attendees. We have a comment coming in from Bonnie, and she says, I'm loud because my daughter was sexually abused by her stepfather as a young child, and she's shunned by everyone, so I'm speaking out. Danu says, this is so powerful. This is so powerful. And so it truly is, and it is important that we know and honor those victims. It's just one of those moments in time that we continue to do every year since we started this, at least 10 years ago. So let's hear now from someone who has been part of that work for the last 45 years.
Hi, I'm Nan Stoops. I'm the strategic advisor at the Washington State Coalition Against Domestic Violence. I started at KCSARC as a volunteer in 1977. You go into advocacy or into volunteerism with kind of a charitable, this is a good thing to do, I'll learn a lot, I'll meet interesting people. And then when you actually get into the work, you realize, wow, this is life-changing. Like a foundational tenet for us 40 years ago, 45, 50 years ago, was that every person has a right to control what happens to their own body. Every person. And we said it then, and we still say it today. I mean, it's weird to now be in a position where I can kind of see the long arc of the work, right? Having started at a time when there was so much denial, to now be at a point where so many people, I think, actually do care and are willing to be side by side with survivors and to build community with them. When I think of pivotal moments and turning points in our work to end sexual violence, I think about things that got a lot of media attention. We tend to focus on the moment, like #MeToo is a good example of this. We get a soundbite, we have a few celebrities, which in many ways is a good thing. It's been very empowering for people. At the same time, we need to know it's thousands of people. So we got to hold all of it, all of the time, so that they don't just stay in the moment, but that they really grapple with what's underneath it. I think it makes a lot more sense to a lot more people today. And we see and we hear young people asserting that. Kids are being raised now with an understanding that their bodies belong to themselves. What makes me love the Be Loud breakfast is that time when we all just rise up out of our chairs, that there's a sense of community, of solidarity. We believe in the importance of this work, and to see so many people doing it, it's huge. Mary Ellen, this is hard work, and I hope that what you have experienced is this thing we call reciprocity. You have given so much to the work. It's not very often that we have leaders who stay in it for the why, and you have, and I thank you for it.
Hi, my name is Chris Johnson. I am the Director of Prevention and Education Services here at KCSARC. I wish I could have had a student here with me today sharing the power of our prevention programming, but they are all in school. So I am pleased to read a letter from one of our school partners. The letter reads, "This letter explains the gratitude and respect Risdon Middle School staff and students hold for KCSARC. As we all know, prevention is key to minimize the crisis response services in our schools. Counselors have limited time and resources, so we feel especially thankful for our 7-year-long partnership with the skilled KCSARC staff serving our community. At the heart of this important work is the concept of nurturing empathy and healthy relationships. Reaching all 6th, 7th, and 8th graders on the topics of consent, boundaries, and healthy relationships, KCSARC has been instrumental in addressing the students' challenges of socialization after the pandemic. At the beginning of every year, KCSARC teaches a lesson to our certificated teachers and paraprofessionals on trauma-informed classrooms. This work equips our frontline workers to be better role models and to encourage mindful approaches to our students. KCSARC is clear. Their hope is that their prevention program will both reduce the likelihood that someone will perpetrate violence and to help link youth who have experienced trauma to the supports they need to reduce the risk of future harm. KCSARC's prevention efforts have made significant differences in our school. I hear students accurately using the term consent in both community and in my office. I hear staff discuss the ways they can support each other's work around these topics and how to strengthen the wraparound care for the student survivors within our school. We're grateful for the KCSARC community leaders of Hannah, Jessica, and Chris for their endless hours of commitment, and we hope to have many more years of collaboration with KCSARC. In gratitude, Maggie Kellogg, Risdon Middle School Counselor. Thank you, Maggie. KCSARC also values our partnership with RISD as well as all the other schools whom we partner with. I'd like to switch gears at this point. Sir Isaac Newton has a famous quote: "If I have seen further, it's by standing on the shoulders of giants." Well, I would like to introduce you to one of the giants upon whose shoulders I've had the privilege to stand upon while doing this work. KCSARC's former deputy director and giant, Deanne Yamamoto.
At 5'2", I'm not generally referred to as a giant. Thank you, Chris. You know, and prevention really is the key to change, and we all have a part to play in that. Well, today I get the honor of introducing Mary Ellen Stone. Not sure she needs an introduction, but I'll do it. I had the privilege of working side by side with her for 38 years, but prior to joining KCSARC, I worked in 2 small rural domestic violence and sexual assault programs, and it was my goal to make it to the big league and get a job at KCSARC, and I did it. So when I arrived on my first day and was introduced to staff, to my surprise, there were a total of 5 staff crammed into 2 small offices. And truth be known, I was expecting something a little more grand than that. And the reason my expectations were so inflated was and is the reality that there's just something about Mary Ellen that is larger than life. Whenever I saw her in statewide meetings, I would hang on her every word. I saw her become a leader amongst leaders. And she had a presence that filled every room. And I was intimidated. No, honestly, I was afraid of her at that time. So I assumed, based on that image, that KCSARC was huge. But what I found was a humble group of women and volunteers running the agency like it was a machine serving all of King County. Today, as in years gone by, you will hear about the achievements of both KCSARC and Mary Ellen. And there are many, and the recognition is well deserved. But I want to share my 38-year vantage point with you. In the quiet of our office and during our one-on-ones, I came to know the heart behind that big image. Mary Ellen has the privilege of developing relationships with community partners like you. And on the flip side, my responsibility was to develop relationships with both staff and clients. And since she was one step removed from direct services, she always wanted to hear stories from me. She wanted to know what staff were working on and the impact that they had on survivors and their families. And I would tell her stories. I would tell her about adult survivors who waited decades before coming to KCSARC to be loud. I told her about kids whose first memories are of sexual assault and how therapy is eliminating their PTSD, anxiety, and depression. I also shared with her stories of the struggles of some staff who had ill family members, but who showed up every day and gave it their all. I shared stories of triumph and celebration. And at the telling of these stories, she would sniffle, then tear up, and then outright cry. Yes, I'm talking about Mary Ellen Stone. She is a softie. Her heart and passion run deep. But the tears wouldn't last long. In the next minute, you can almost see her brain shifting gears. The wind would start to blow in her hair, the red cape would peek out from her business casual attire, and her voice would boom. What can I do to help? What do you need? How much will it cost? Then music would start to play, and she flew into action. I'm serious. This is how it was like to work with Mary Ellen Stone. I had to get my hair cut short in order to withstand all the windstorms in the office. The superhero you all know and love is propelled to action by her big and sensitive heart. friends and supporters, please welcome Mary Ellen Stone to the podium.
Oh, I can't believe that. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Marilyn, we need some music in the office. That red cave, I miss it. Thank you all. Deanne, thank you. It's been the honor of a lifetime, and my plan has been to not cry. That's my big goal for today. You are all generous in being here this morning. It's so good to see you, of recognizing me, but before I share a few comments with you, I'd like to have special recognition for the people who make KCSARC KCSARC. We have a lot of current and former staff members in the room. Please stand. And we have current and former board members. They all stand, and I would like to have them have a round of applause. Please. Thank you. Because our staff and board are the ones who are doing the work. I'm just, as a friend says, sort of the hood ornament moving forward. And they're the ones who are doing the work every day. So, you know, I started at what was King County Rape Relief when I was 27 in 1979, and you can do the math on that. And when Vicki Vreeland, who is here, who was the board chair at the time, asked how long I thought I would stay at the organization, I said, well, probably 3 years. So I was like, you know, obviously. But I joined as a young feminist. I was seeking to secure rights for women and girls, and that has always been my heart. At the time, the organization's vision was a community free of sexual violence. And later we changed the name to King County Sexual Assault Resource Center, but the vision remained the same. We believed then, and we believe now, that the threat and impact of violence seriously impacts a person's ability to fully live in our society. And we want to change that. And that's what has been our focus. So 43 years later now, I'm helping the board find my successor. And, you know, for better or worse, I'm that one that reflects on things that I've done or we've done. I tend to be heads down and move forward. But I've started this farewell tour. And it's just the beginning. I think I have several months. I hear we're recruiting for people. But I've started the tour, and people have been encouraging me to think about where we've been. So just a couple reflections on that. Let's not forget where we've come from. We're not the first persons, we're not the first organization to talk about sexual violence. This started over 100 years ago when 2 black women bravely testified to Congress about rapes that they experienced in the 1866 Memphis riots. And talk about bravery. And then it took another 100 years for the second women's movement to start talking about violence against women, to move it into the forefront. And that was the environment, and many of us remember what it was like 40 years ago when a small group of courageous women and men came together to build King County Rape Relief. They had the audacity to say the word rape in public. They talked about sexual assault and abuse in ways that victims throughout our region could hear and realize, oh, that's what happened to me. It made sense to them. That was me too. And it was 30 years after that Tarana Burke captured that sentiment, and another 10 years before we had the hashtag #MeToo that people rallied around. So we've made some progress, for sure, because we've got greater public acceptance and understanding. When we do the stand-up, when we first started doing that, I was deeply skeptical. I think I said it was a terrible idea. And a few people stood up, and now you saw the whole room stand up. That is powerful. Your presence here today reaffirms our common and shared experience. Our community is properly invested in putting time, resources, and energy into sexual assault response and into services. And we have some systems in place. We have better laws. We've got rape shield laws. We have protections for victims in many ways. We have trauma-focused treatment that really works to alleviate the symptoms of PTSD coming out of an assault. We have very skilled advocates who know the medical and legal systems inside and out, and all of our services are bilingual, bicultural. But we're not done, because if we're not pushing, we're not doing our job, and we will continue to push. Victims of sexual assault must have the full range of options available to them to reclaim their lives and to heal. And those who assault, who rape, who hurt other people can change their behavior, but they have to acknowledge what they've done. They have to take responsibility for it. Now, we know most victims choose not to report to law enforcement. But those that do go through this process, they do it at considerable personal cost. And we hear from them every day. The reason I'm doing this is so it doesn't happen to somebody else. When someone says that, we need to thank them. We need to thank them for having the courage to do what they're doing. And we also owe them what we call procedural justice, which means validation, which means timely information, acknowledgement of what happened to them. We can do a lot better in the criminal justice system because we know that we have to keep our response to survivors strong. We need to be able to respond better to prevention, but I want to go back to prevention. We won't achieve the vision we have of a community free of sexual assault without prevention. You heard some of the earlier comments. You heard about our book, You Told Me Not to Tell, which really focused young people. It changed our organization. It changed the country's understanding of how we think about sexual assault. I am very encouraged that young people are now embracing concepts of affirmative consent, healthy relationships, and power imbalances. We have seen their leadership in demanding schools address sexual assault and harassment within the schools, and we support them. We are all here today because we want a community free of sexual assault. We want that for ourselves, but more importantly, we want that for the next generation. I want that for my nieces. And so KCSARC will continue to do what we do best. And I need you to continue to stand with us. I also need you to stand with our new CEO. There'll be another farewell tour, introduction tour later this year as we bring somebody in. And I hope we can count on you for that. Each one of us today has a part to play. All of us know victims, and all of us have people who disclose to us. We know that a supportive, non-judgmental response is one of the most important things that can help victims. There's cards on your tables. We're doing a webinar later next month to give you some information on how to do that. Each one of you can be loud to speak about sexual violence and to support prevention work. Now, those of you who are elected officials, and I thank you for being here because I know your calendars are particularly busy. We need your continued leadership to make sure that government has a strong role when it comes to responding to victims and supporting prevention. There's a lot at stake right now, and this is absolutely not the time to step back. And for our new leaders in the criminal justice system, this is a defining moment. You have a real opportunity, and we will work with you to make sure that the criminal justice system focuses on victims of crime. I want to thank you for 43 years, for your support in our mission, for your personal support of me, and for standing with victims and their families. We are a stronger community because of each one of you. I have been humbled by survivors' bravery, by their grace, and by their resilience. And I now want to introduce you to some people who really personify that.
Hello, my name is Erin Esteban. I'm a bilingual family advocate here at KCSARC. I'm here today with 3 members of our Empowered Voices program, or in Spanish, Voces en Alto. Through Empowered Voices and Voces en Alto, we offer support to former KCSARC clients who are interested in sharing their unique experiences and using their voice as a vehicle for change in the beliefs, attitudes, and policies around sexual violence. I'm honored to join Ana, Lisa, and Jorge today as they talk about their experiences and what it has meant to each of them to use their voice as an advocate for change. Can you tell us a little about what led you to reaching out to KCSARC?
Permítame compartir brevemente con ustedes cómo fue que llegué a KCSARC. Mi esposa sufrió un asalto sexual en su trabajo y eso nos llevó a la corte, donde no tuvo éxito, pero ahí nos recomendaron este programa. Llegamos ahí, mi esposa empezó a tomar la terapia, pero fue muy difícil para ella y para mí, porque en ese entonces solamente ella lo compartió conmigo. Y al ver que ella no obtenía resultados y se desesperaba, yo le compartí mi historia. Cuando yo tenía 7 años, yo fui abusado por un amigo de mi papá. En ese entonces yo no me di cuenta de lo que pasó o por qué había pasado. Simplemente me encerré en una burbuja donde no quería yo compartir con nadie. No quería que nadie supiera, por vergüenza, por miedo. Y eso le ayudó mucho a mi esposa, porque entonces ella se abrió y juntos caminamos este largo camino, largo sendero para poder llegar hasta donde estamos, para poder ir a través de todo el proceso y la sanación que tuvimos. Fueron años de trabajar con las terapeutas, pero al final del camino lo pudimos hacer. Estamos mejor, estamos mucho mejor y seguimos superándonos.
I was groomed and sexually abused by a teacher at my high school when I was 16 and 17 years old. And for years, in college and in my young adult life, I tried to pretend like it didn't happen and it wasn't affecting me, and was going through all sorts of emotions of shame and feeling like it was my fault. And I just told myself that, this man had caused me enough harm and pain, and that it wasn't worth keeping at the top of my mind or telling people or reliving any of that pain. And it was just easier to shut it all down and pretend like it never happened. And then one day, about 8 years later, my great friend from, when I was in like the 3rd grade, called me up on the phone one day and told me that her soccer coach had abused her, and it was the first time I opened up because I had met someone who had gone through something similar. And I told her, she's the first person I ever told. And she was the person who referred me to a detective and to KCSARC. And she is such a wonderful friend because she didn't let me ignore the problem any longer. She was a pushy friend in the best way, and knew how to push me towards getting help and the resources that I needed.
When I was 8 years old, I was sexually abused by my father all the way till I was 18. And I actually have a daughter from my father. She's 8 years old, and she's amazing and wonderful. And I, throughout all the bad that happened to me and my family, she was the answer to saving us, because during court, she was the hard evidence of proving everything my father did. And to this day, we're still healing. It's still hard to talk about, but I'm very grateful that there are people who believe me. Sorry. Oh, that's what led me to KCSARC.
What were some of the tools that maybe you learned while you were at KCSARC that you even remember today, or that you still kind of use or put into practice today?
Yo creo que en mi caso, más que herramientas, la forma que me enseñaron a afrontar esto El primer paso fue aceptarlo, aceptar lo que pasó y aceptar que no fue mi culpa, que no fue nuestra culpa. Y una vez que aceptamos eso, empezamos a trabajar en la sanación y empezamos después a trabajar en el perdón. El perdón es muy importante para realmente empezar una sanación. Cuando perdonamos, estamos perdonando a esa persona, pero realmente el perdón es para nosotros. Nos liberamos de todo lo que sentimos. Y es realmente cuando empezamos esa sanación.
I think similar to what Jorge said is understanding that it's not your fault. You aren't the one who did anything wrong. And also the patience, the listening and the understanding that KCSARC offered has been huge. I think the first few times I ever shared my story was with police detectives, and it's just a very different listener on the other end. And it was just a huge difference to come to KCSARC, and it really felt like that was the place where I was going to be on this path to being okay and healing.
It was just important to be loud and to just literally ask for help.
Is there anything else that you would want people to know about the criminal justice process or about what justice looks like to you in general?
The court process is very scary, but they have somebody to help you. I had my legal advocate, and she was there for me every single time I went to the courthouse. Any meetings that I had, she was there, and when I felt uncomfortable, she was there to help just make me feel comfortable and, take breaks. And, I didn't feel pressured to say anything that I didn't want to say. My prosecutor, too, she helped me. She fought for me, in legal terms. And, I didn't understand how it's like in court, but she fought the whole thing for me. And I just appreciate them because they made it so easy for me to just come in and testify what happened to me, and being able to tell my truth in front of my father is something I never thought that I would do, because it was just abuse with him in a room alone. And now that I'm in the state of law in front of the judge and my family in the pews, I felt so, it was scary, but I felt so happy to let it out about how I've been feeling, and that the pain would stop and that the trauma was no more, and now I can actually heal.
Are there messages about your experiences with sexual assault and healing that you specifically want to kind of be put out there?
Que traten de buscar ayuda, que hay un lugar que los puede ayudar y que una vez que empiecen esa terapia sentirán que no pasa nada, que no tienen ningún resultado. Ese es un proceso normal en lo que aceptamos qué es lo que pasó y que no fue nuestra culpa. Una vez que aceptamos eso, entonces trabajamos en el perdón, y cuando estamos perdonando a las personas o a la persona que hizo eso, podemos empezar a sanar y se puede sanar. Con la ayuda de las terapeutas lo hemos hecho. Que hay un lugar importante que nos hace sentir importantes, que valemos y que podemos seguir adelante y salir adelante.
I think I would want to tell people that it's not a linear process. Healing will come in waves. Some days are going to feel better than others.
I guess what I would want to share is who I am today is not who I was years ago when all of that stuff was happening to me. I've never thought that I'd be here right now speaking about it. I did a speech about it, and I just couldn't believe how many people were there. And I didn't know that, sexual abuse is not just happening to me, it's happening to so many people who, either been through it or unfortunately still going through it, and I just want them to know that they don't have to suffer anymore, because there are people that do want to help. And, even us here, like telling our stories, it's like you said, Lisa, there's hard days, but we want to help people, and we'd rather be here speaking our stories if that means saving somebody. So, I just want to say that I would gladly speak for those who are suffering silently.
Thank you all so much for taking the time to share your stories and to be loud. The impact is huge.
Son impactantes estos testimonios, como son de gran impacto su asistencia y contribución a esta noble causa.
These are powerful words, as are your contribution and support to this noble cause.
Estoy muy agradecido con KCSARC y con ustedes, porque gracias a esa ayuda, mucha gente vulnerable ha podido salir de la oscuridad y ver una luz al final de este terrible camino.
I am very grateful to KCSARC and to all of you, because thanks to your support, many vulnerable people have been able to come out of the dark and see light at the end of this dark path.
Ahora sabemos que no estamos solos, que hay gente e instituciones que creen en nosotros, en nuestra verdad, que incondicionalmente nos ayudan y caminan junto a nosotros durante todo el proceso.
Now we know that we are not alone, that there are people and organizations that will believe us, believe our truth, and that will support us unconditionally and walk with us every step of the way.
Con estos videos y testimonios, queremos que la comunidad sepa que hay ayuda disponible, que hay una esperanza de volver a sentirse valorados e importantes.
We want the community to know that there is help available, that there is hope, and that you will feel worthy and important again.
Que podemos y debemos hablar fuerte para que las autoridades nos escuchen y pongan más atención y recursos en estos crímenes, que la mayoría de las veces se quedan en el olvido.
That we can and we have to be loud so that the authorities will listen and assign more resources to solve these crimes that are often forgotten.
En 2018 tuve el honor de compartir mi historia en este estrado. Ahora es el turno de Lisa. Por favor, ayúdenme a recibirla con un caluroso aplauso.
In 2018, I had the honor of sharing my story on this stage. Now it's Lisa's turn. Please help me give her a warm welcome.
Thank you, Jorge. I'm so appreciative of opportunities to meet with members of our Empowered Voices program. And thank you to everyone here joining us in the room and online. I am proud to share my story with you today. When I was 16, I was full of energy and spirit. I loved my friends, my school, volleyball, and my after-school job. I had this Spanish teacher who seemed to be everyone's favorite. He was smart, charismatic, adored by his students. He was the type of teacher who parents trusted to take their kids on annual trips abroad. He gave me extra attention and he told me I was special. Our friendship progressed from chatting after class to exchanging CDs and flirtatious texting. I went on 2 of his class trips abroad where we got drunk together, dirty danced at nightclubs, and he snuck me away from the group for alone time in his room. He invited me to his friend's property where he set up a picnic blanket by the river, got me drunk, and snuck me inside when the neighbors walked by. He invited me to his home while his young children slept upstairs. I was always given alcohol, I was shown pornography, and I was pressured into sexual acts on multiple occasions, once even in the art room of my school. He told me this was our secret to keep. He said other teachers did it too. He said that we had a special bond, and I believed everything he said. It was a couple years later when I started to realize I had been abused at all. I was starting to see that I had been horrifically taken advantage of, groomed, and manipulated. And coming to that realization alone was incredibly isolating. I was embarrassed, I blamed myself, and I didn't think anyone would understand what I was going through. My first year in college, I ran into someone I knew from high school, and he made some comment like, "What happened to the fun, energetic Lisa I used to know?" And I realized in that moment that I had become quiet. Someone who kept her head down while walking through campus, someone who struggled to make connections and friends. I realized I had lost something. My secret was consuming me. I was convinced no one would understand what I was going through, and there were so many days where I just wanted to scream from the top of my lungs, but I was too scared to let it out, terrified of being judged, blamed, and gossiped about by everyone I knew. As I shared in the video, a dear friend called me one day and told me her story of sexual assault, and for the first time, I shared my story. My friend told me what I already knew, that coming forward could save other girls from my fate. So 8 years after the abuse, I sat down with a detective and I told my story. The detective warned me that my case would be made very public. She said that while victim information should be kept private, names often come out in the media. And I had been terrified of this, having my name tied to the abuse, having community members see my name on the evening news and speak of me at their dinner tables. But for the first time, I felt brave enough to accept this road. I had a next step in place. My abuser would be required to answer for his crimes. But due to the statute of limitations, my abuser would never face criminal charges. And learning that fact was the most devastating day of my life. It had taken me 8 years to come up with the courage to share my story. And I wondered if he understood the complexities of the statute of limitations. Had he marked his calendar? Did he celebrate the passing of this date that I didn't know I missed? That friend who pushed me to file a police report also gave me KCSARC's resource line, and she told me I needed to call. Getting connected with KCSARC made me realize that I wasn't alone. I had a network of people in my corner. They understood what I was going through, the emotions I was feeling. They were patient, and they really cared about helping me to heal. I was referred to a therapist who helped me process what happened to me. She helped me set goals for myself, and she helped me in opening up to my family and loved ones who, to my ignorant surprise, were immensely understanding and supportive. KCSARC also introduced me to my legal advocate, Megan. During the time I worked with Megan, I often referred to her as my guardian angel. I felt like the legal system was this big, intimidating machine, and I didn't understand where I was headed, how to prepare, or what was happening at any given moment. But I had Megan. She consoled me when my criminal case came to an abrupt end before it even started. She answered my endless questions, and she helped me understand my options with a civil case and helped me make the right decision for myself. When the school district hired a private investigator for an interview, my first call was to Megan. I was concerned that the district's only intent was to protect themselves from litigation, and the investigator was nothing short of intimidating. It was having Megan's support that day, sitting with me for the duration of a 4-hour interview that ran until 10 o'clock at night, holding my hand, helping me to set boundaries around inappropriate questions, and speaking up when she could tell I needed a break. It was having her support that day that gave me the confidence to go through with it. And I'm so glad I did. One day before the investigator was scheduled to meet with my abuser, he resigned from his teaching position. And 1 month later, he surrendered his teaching license. And that was a goal that I had set with my therapist, and it would have never been possible without the support of my KCSARC legal advocate, Megan. Thank you. I had this gut feeling that there was more for me to do. So I reached out to KCSARC again. I said, I know there's something for me to do. I need to get involved, but I have no idea where to start. And that's how I got connected with the KCSARC Empowered Voices program, where I joined forces with other survivors and we learned how to become advocates. With those other survivors, I met with the media, with legislators, and ultimately testified in a Senate committee hearing. There's still plenty of work for us to do, but I am so proud that we were able to make some progress in simplifying and expanding statute of limitation laws for sex crimes in Washington. When I think back about my past self, she was quiet, scared, and didn't think anyone would understand her. And there's such a stark contrast to who I am today. My healing journey has not been linear. There are still moments and days that are hard. But it's so clear to me that KCSARC completely changed the trajectory of my life. It is thanks to KCSARC and the support of my fiance, my family, and my loved ones that I'm here today on this stage being loud about sexual assault. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, for sharing your amazing story. And I can't even imagine the guts it takes, right, to get up here and tell such a personal story. And yet we see these very strong, courageous people do it every year for this breakfast. Thank you also to Jorge and to Anna for sharing their stories. They're just so powerful. Now it is my pleasure to introduce another leader and certainly a longtime supporter of KCSARC. Please welcome KCSARC board member and former Justice of the Washington State Supreme Court, Bobby J. Bridge. Bobby?
I think everybody needs to take a deep breath. This is a lot. It's a lot to absorb in less than an hour, the first thing in the morning, in a time warp. We've heard stories, old and new, stories of trauma and pain, stories of survival and thriving. We're sharing it all as a community. That's the power. We are a community of purpose, a community of resolve, and a community of commitment to ensuring that no victim of gender-based violence is alone, that none is silenced. It's been over 40 years, and you've seen the work and heard about it, beginning from this morning in the opening video. 40 years ago, rape was a 4-letter word and not mentioned in polite society. Victims of rape were silenced, shamed, hidden in the dark. If this kind of assault did come into the light, It was regarded as a family issue or characterized as deserved by reason of a promiscuous life or incautious behavior. If reported and prosecuted, a rare occurrence except for those which were very public kinds of crime, the victims found herself, hardly ever a him and never a they. The crime victim found herself put on trial. Every action, past or present, that could contribute to loose behavior was examined in detail, often to humiliate the victim and discourage others from reporting. And you know what? It worked. And other forms of gender-based violence were dismissed too, as oversensitive reactions to just good old boys having fun. And microaggressions in the often over-sexualized workplaces were ignored or worse, used as proof that women and some men just didn't belong there. Over the past 4 decades, lots has improved. We've passed rape shield laws, which protect a victim's behavior from being used to discredit her testimony in court. We have hotlines for reporting, education for even small children about good touch and bad touch, and for older kids about dating violence. Respect for bodily integrity even extended to our children and youth. Special assault units have been created in police and prosecuting attorneys' offices. Thank you, Becky Rowe, Lisa Mannion, Norman Dan, and so many others. Gender-based violence is a part of public conversation now in government, the factory, the movie set, the school, the hospital, the locker room, and the office. We talk about it. Me too. Be loud. 40 years of work in prevention, treatment, advocacy, public awareness, and coalition building have done that. 40 years of change, good change, with people like Mary Ellen Stone's leadership as a core element of this response. I'm so proud to have known Mary Ellen for all those years. We were both just children, although she had to out us with her age. She's been an expert for me, a teacher for me, a colleague, a policy partner. When I was a judge working together to improve that court process you've heard about, and judicial training on the dynamics of gender-based violence, and at the Center for Children and Youth Justice in collaboration with us to prevent the victimization of children and youth. I've been an attendee of these breakfasts almost every year, and I have the button collection to prove it. Along with my husband, John, I'm a donor, and now I'm a board member. But this is my first appearance presenting to you an invitation to invest more, maybe for another 40 years, maybe we hope not. Invest in work that could never have happened without your support in the past 40 years. You get it, you feel it, you see it, you stand up for it, and you should be proud of the progress, but you also know that it's not over and that there is so much more to do. And in fact, today, we all have a unique opportunity to celebrate the wins of the past 40 years, to honor the work of Mary Ellen Stone for her vision, her courage, and her tenacity, to express to her our gratitude as a community for her contribution to our progress, and to enhance public awareness of the role that KCSARC has played and will play in the future in educating justice system professionals, in healing victims, and in improving public policy addressing the root causes of gender-based violence. So I invite you, be loud, use your voice, open your wallets, celebrate, honor, invest. Thanks to a generous group of donors you've already heard this morning, but I remind you that to celebrate Mary Ellen's 43rd year of leadership, all gifts made of $430 or more will be matched. but all gifts matter. So, for those of you joining us virtually, please fill out the online donation form or the text Be Loud to 325-603-3395. Giving options are posted in the chat. For those of you in the room, I hear the ripping of envelopes. Table captains, if you have not already, please pass the pledge cards and the pens that are in the manila envelopes at your table. Or if you prefer, you can give by scanning the QR code or using the text to give option located in your program and on the placards at your tables. There are many ways to support the work, but one thing must not do. You must not do is nothing. Whatever amount and whatever action that you contemplate after this morning's breakfast matters. 40 years. We cannot and will not go back. Not back to shame, not back to dismissal, not back to silence. Be loud and be generous. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby, and thank you to that generous group of Challenge Pool donors who provided today's match. That is absolutely terrific and so generous. As you are making your gift, I really encourage you to stretch as far as you can. There really has never been a more important time to step up and to be part of the solution. So let's make history today and make sure that KCSARC does have the resources going forward so we can continue to help people like Lisa, like Anna, like Jorge, and so many others. Really, we don't want to be in a position where we're turning people away. We also want to honor Mary Ellen's legacy with your gift today. So team captains, a little bit of housekeeping here. Please make sure to put the completed pledge cards in the envelope at the center of your table. And after the program, the KCSARC staff members will collect envelopes from each table. And also, special thanks to the team captains. You do yeoman's work. You are the engine that drives the success of this important event each and every year, whether we're virtual or whether we are in person. So we are grateful for your leadership, for your commitment to this event, and to supporting survivors of sexual assault. We literally could not do it without you. So thank you, table captains. And a special thank you for those of you who have been with us for more than 10 years. We appreciate you, your presence, and your support for survivors. Many of whom are now just learning how to be loud and use your voices. It takes time. I mean, this is a trauma. And we heard Lisa's story. It takes time to come forward. So sharing some of the comments now from our virtual attendees that have been coming through. Michelle, about the Empowered Voices speakers. She says, these folks are so courageous. She's got that right. Giving voice is so important. So thank you, KCSARC, for being an advocate and for being a safe space. Hannah shared a message for Lisa. She says, Lisa, I am so proud of you. Thank you for sharing your story, my friend. I love you endlessly. Marilyn says, Mary Ellen is a true force of nature, an inspiration to all of us. And Danu says, Mary Ellen is incredible. Yes, she is. We know that. So thank you, Mary Ellen. So those are just some of the comments that are coming in virtually. My gratitude, too, to our sponsors. We couldn't do this entire program without you. You set a high standard of giving for the community. You are investing in the possibility of creating a world without sexual violence, and we could not have gathered in this room today without the support of our many sponsors. So please hold your applause until the end. We want to thank our premier sponsor, Amazon. Thank you to our media sponsor, the Seattle Times. Also, thank you to our hero sponsor, Expeditors. Thank you to our visionary sponsors. We have Alaska Airlines, the Archdiocese of Seattle, H.D. Fowler Company, Schroeder Goldmark and Bender, T-Mobile, Uber, Vreeland Law, PLLC, and Zevenberg and Capital Investments, LLC. And thank you to our advocate and our partner sponsors. What a fantastic group of corporate sponsors we have. We are honored and we are so proud to partner with you. Thank you for your incredible generosity and support. Let's give them a round of applause. And thanks to all of you who have joined us this morning. It's been so great to see you in person, truly. And thank you for standing with survivors of sexual assault. Thank you for making our 34th annual Be Loud breakfast so successful. And one last thank you, my heartfelt gratitude to Mary Ellen. It's been a pleasure. As always, we hope to see you again next year. Have a great rest of your day and go out and be loud. Thanks.